Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Bullony Basketball. Here with Johnny. How's it going, Johnny?
What's going on, Garrett? Happy Thursday, everybody. You already know, got that fresh haircut, but still rocking the hat. Levine's an all-star. We got that to celebrate. But we got a special guest, Garrett. You want to go ahead and introduce him?
Yes, sir. Our special guest, and if you guys have been following since the first season, you might remember him. He was on a few episodes. I even did a debate with him back in the day. We got A1 Hoops, also known as Edwin. How's it going, my man?
What's going on, man? Y'all know the vibes. We're finna talk some hoops. Let's get to it.
Yes, sir. We got a lot of topics to go through. We're gonna kind of breeze through them, give our sides to everything. The first thing was the All-Star lineups have been announced. So, is there anything that surprised you guys? I know a lot of people are saying Trae Young, Devin Booker, who is now going to replace AD. But what stuck out to you, the All-Stars?
I'll let you give your Miami Heat snubs, Edwin. I know they're coming.
I mean, to be honest, I think Bam deserved to make it. I would say maybe Jimmy probably didn't because he missed a lot of games. But I'm cool with the All-Star selections. I was fine with it for the most part. I don't really have any hot take about it. I think everybody that made it deserved to make it. Obviously, you already brought up Devin Booker making it over AD because AD's hurt. But aside from that, I'm cool with all the selections.
Yeah, listen, there's going to be snubs. The game has just so many talented players that choosing 24, there's going to be people left off. The two things that I would switch, like we said, Devin Booker made it as a replacement, but wasn't chosen as an all-star. So for me, I have Devin Booker over Chris Paul, and then if you want to throw CP in as the injury replacement, go for it. But you had DeMar DeRozan you could have done, Mike Conley, SGA, Fox. So there were names that could have been thrown out there. In the East, that big man log, you had Sabonis, Randall, Vooch, Bam Adebayo. For me, I would have taken Sabonis over Vucevic. At a certain point, you value some sort of winning, and the Magic are just bad, plain and simple. So I thought that Sabonis should have gotten the nod. He's averaging 20, 10, and 5. That's not a very common stat line you see, and the Pacers are a good team. So I would have gone Sabonis over Vucevic myself.
Yeah, Oh, sorry about that. I'm just going to kind of go back to what you guys said. I didn't really have too many snubs per se. I thought Trae Young would make it over Ben Simmons because it seemed like Ben started the year a little bit slow. The Hawks, they have fallen in the standings, but you got to think, they're probably maybe 1.5 games behind the 4 seed. So everyone in that mix is so close that I don't think you can really use standings to put one guy over another. And like you said, Sabonis, Vucevic, I would have taken Sabonis, but I did see a stat that I guess Vucevic is on pace to become the first big to average 20, 10 on 40, 20 and 10 on 40% shooting from 3, and I think at least 5 3-pointers attempted, which that's pretty elite class as well. I know Sabonis had the double-double thing going for a long time, started the year, but I don't know, you got to look at it like that.
Yeah, I'd like to add one last thing. We can claim their snubs, but you can't claim somebody got snubbed without telling me who they would replace on the All-Star team, because that's just the rules. We can't just say 4 guys got snubbed and add them on, because in order to add those 4 guys on, you got to take 4 guys off. So when we have these conversations, you always have to have some context around it.
Yeah. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Edwin, or not.
No, I like that point at the end there too, where he was like, if you're taking 4 guys out, if you're adding 4 guys on, you gotta bring up who you want to take off as well. Trae Young not making it and Ben Simmons making it. Ben Simmons, like you said earlier, played terribly to start the season, but obviously he picked it back up. He's in the running for Defensive Player of the Year, so I do feel like that was well deserved. But see, that's the thing about All Stars though, is nobody, I can't really say whoever made it didn't deserve to make it. It's just there's some people who didn't make it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely understand. I think that's why I think they need to expand the rosters. Maybe 15 guys, because then there's going to be less snubs. Of course, there still will be some, but it'll make it a little bit less painful. Also, Ben Simmons' teammate Tobias Harris was another notable one that think a lot of people talked about. But we're going to move on to the Brooklyn Nets, who have been on fire lately. They've won 7 straight, and they're currently like 12-4 against teams over 500, which they're likely going to be playing in the playoffs. What do you guys think? Do you think the Nets right now are the team to beat?
In the East?
In the East, yes.
For sure.
What about in general?
Go for it, Edwin.
Okay, well, I just want to bring up the Nets because, to be honest, I didn't think they were going to mesh this well right off the bat. Like I knew eventually it would work because when you have 3 great players, you find a way to make it work. But the fact that they made it work this quickly is pretty impressive. Even with KD being out, they've been beating elite teams. They beat both LA teams. They beat Miami. They beat Philly. They beat Boston. Like, they beat all the good teams, and it's like, what else can you, like, what else? I mean, yeah, the defense is not all that great, but they get timely stops when they need it. So the thing about when people bring up the defensive metrics, oh, they're horrible on defense, this and that, they're getting timely stops, though. You know what I mean? Like, they might not be playing great D throughout the game, which is why their stats look horrible defensively, but they still get stops when they need it in order to win. The Nets are obviously the team to beat in the East. I don't really see... If they don't make it out the East, it was a disappointment. I don't care who they lose to. If they lose to Milwaukee, disappointment. If they lose to Philly, it's a disappointment. It's finals or bust at the very least for me.
Yeah, I have the same feeling there. At the very least, they're the favorite in the East. If you want to make the argument that either LA team is still the favorite overall, go for it. Clippers are playing unbelievable basketball. Lakers are the reigning champions and have, 2 of the best 7-8 players on the earth. So you have that. I think what's made this team successful thus far is that Kyrie has bought into James Harden being the point guard. So you don't necessarily have that argument as to who's bringing up the ball. Harden's the primary playmaker. If stuff goes wrong there, you can throw the ball down to Durant, and you got the most skilled 7-footer ever. If stuff doesn't work there, you can just throw it to Kyrie Irving, who's one of the greatest ball handlers the league's ever seen and one of the best finishers at the rim. So there's a lot of ways that the Nets can beat you, and you're not going to outscore them. So if you make this an up-and-down game, it's game over before the game even starts. I think the Clippers probably match up with them best defensively. But even still, it's hard to stop 3 of the best 10 offensive players in the league. Other thing is I don't think this Nets team is complete yet, as in they're going to get somebody in the buyout market or trade market. Probably going to try to find a way to add another big, whether that's Drummond, JaVale McGee, or somebody along those lines. But other than that, at the very, very least, they are the favorite in the East, and that did rhyme.
Yeah. Oh, wait, were you going to say something, Edward? My bad.
Oh, no. I was laughing at his little joke at the end. That was kind of cool. I see what he's doing out here.
Yeah. What I will say, though, is the Nets, in my opinion, are also the team to beat in the East. And I know you credited a lot of it to, Kyrie allowing Harden to be the point guard. But I think it's also the fact of Harden adjusting his role and being willing to do that. I mean, if you remember, like, at the beginning of the year, before, he was traded from Houston, people were saying stuff like, they'll never win a ring, his play style, it's never going to work. Now, recently, you see guys like Kendrick Perkins and Stephen A. Smith have both been on air saying something like James Harden's the best player in basketball right now. And a lot of that is because he's buying into what the Nets need him to do, and that's be more so a facilitator than go out and drop 35 a game like he was doing in Houston. And like you said, Edwin, like, their defense has been pretty timely. Like, I believe they kept, like, it's weird to think of it because they're a team that'll play to anyone's level. It doesn't matter if they're as bad as the Cleveland Cavaliers or if they're as good as the Jazz have been this year. So, I don't know. That could be a positive, could be a negative down the line, but I like the way the Nets are playing right now.
The biggest thing for me for the Nets, and like this is something I forgot to mention earlier, was I think the biggest reason for their success is simply the relationship between Kyrie and James Harden, and the fact that Kyrie was so willing to just play all ball and kind of be that 2 guard, and then James Harden being able to not score as much, but go back to kind of like 2017 James Harden when he was averaging like 11 assists per game, leading the league in assists. So I think those two, like them, kind of understanding their roles was the biggest reason for their success. And then obviously KD's not ball dominant. So when he comes back into the lineup, thing about KD, he can kind of fit any type of system. I mean, you can drop him anywhere and he'll fit because he's not ball dominant. So when he comes back, I expect the same results. But as far as like the whole James Harden Kyrie thing, that was going to be my biggest concern before like we actually started seeing them play. But it worked out perfectly because Kyrie was cool with just being the two guard. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, and we talk about Harden not scoring as much. It doesn't mean he's not scoring the ball. Recent game logs, I'll go back 5 game log. 29 and 11, 37 and 11. Oops, I'm sorry, sis. 29 and 14, 37 and 7, 23 and 11, 38 and 11, 29 and 14. So he's doing it all. He's not necessarily scoring, his 35 a game as he had to with the Rockets, but he's still putting the ball in the hoop and he's still making plays for this team to win.
Well, that's how great James Harden is in general. Like he's scoring, in the 30s and high 20s, and we're talking about how he could score more than that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, hopefully for their sake, he's going to continue to put on a show because they kind of need it. When we're going to move on, though, to a team that right now, the way things are aligned in the playoff picture, they might end up facing, and that is our very own Chicago Bulls, who have been on fire lately, have won 3 in a row. Here's just a list of teams that over the last 10 games, the Bulls have a better record than. The Lakers, Clippers, the Blazers, the Nuggets, the 76ers, the Bucks, and the Celtics, which are 7 teams that I think a lot of people are thinking have a legit chance to, come out of their conference or at least compete. What do you guys think of the way Levine, Kobe White, and the way that Billy Donovan's helped orchestrate this Bulls team lately?
Well, I'm gonna go first real quick because obviously you know a lot more about the Bulls than I do because you're a Bulls fan. I do really, really love like the Zach LaVine progression. And recently he came out and said that he doesn't want to be in the dunk contest. And to me, I mean, he didn't really say this, but to me that kind of shows me like a little bit of growth. Like, I don't want to be known as some dunk contest type of dude. I want to come out there and be known as an all-star, like, an actual top echelon player. So Zach LaVine's just been amazing this season. I have been watching a lot of tape on him specifically. So I do really like his growth. And like you said before, the Bulls in the last 10 games have better records than all those teams that you mentioned. So I just think the Bulls are moving in the right direction. Obviously, they've been irrelevant since, well, not irrelevant, but not great since 2015, something like that. So it's good to see them moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, it all starts at the top of the organization and funnels its way down. Got rid of incompetent general manager and front office guys in Gar Foreman and John Paxson. Foreman's gone. Paxson took a much lesser role, brought in Carson Novas, and he started to build things the right way. Got rid of Jim Boylan, replaced him with Billy Donovan, who's a great coach. Hit the lottery almost, I guess, if you will, in taking Patrick Williams, youngest player. Never started a game in college, but he's really starting to blossom. He's your future 4. I think Wendell's the future 5. I think Lowry's going to find his way out of Chicago, whether that's via trade or free agency. Otto Porter is also out at the moment. He has no future with the Bulls. Zach LaVine's playing out of his mind. I'm still not sold on the Kobe White Zach LaVine backcourt myself. I think it's too much scoring and not enough playmaking. I think LaVine needs a true point guard next to him, and I don't think that's what Kobe White is. Sprinkle in a couple nice veterans in Thaddeus Young and Garrett Temple, and that's how you have the 6th seed in the East this year. That, and along with the help of teams like the Boston Celtics struggling, Miami having a slow start, Toronto having a slow start, and the Atlanta Hawks not doing anything. So, with some outside help and some inside progression, the Bulls have found themselves having a pretty nice season up to this point.
I'm kind of surprised that you think Lowry might be the one out, and then Wendell might be the guy that they keep, because, of course, they both have their injury issues. I personally think Lowry could be more important to the team. Wendell's very small, but regardless, I think the one thing that we can point to the Bulls, the way that they've kind of transformed this year, we talked about like Billy Donovan, we talked about Arturas Karnisovas, but the main thing for me is the bench. And like their bench has been, I think, a lot better than anyone's been given credit for, and their veterans have been really great as well. You mentioned Thaddeus Young and Garrett Temple. Those two in particular have helped transform kind of the culture of this team. I'm not going to go too crazy on the Bulls right now because I'm sure our fans get enough of the Bulls on the daily. But what I will say is that's a huge part to the way we're playing right now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we can sit here, and I don't want to get necessarily too far into the Lowry-Wendell debate, but if Patrick Williams is your 4, it's not that he's undersized, but he kind of has the body of a 3, but going to play the stretch 4. So I think it's important that you have a guy like Wendell in. He's working on his outside shot. I just don't think Lowry's big enough to play the 5. That's my point.
Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, with Wendell, I don't know. We don't really have he's supposed to be a great defender, but he's not able to stop guys already this year. Embiid and Vucevic have both gotten career highs against us. Karl Anthony Towns went off against him the other day. So I don't know. I think that's kind of a concern as well.
Well, I guess last counterpoint after this. There's maybe 3 guys in the league that can. You can't stop Embiid. There's maybe 3 guys in the league that can slow Embiid. I wouldn't worry about the Embiid one as much as I'd worry about, if you get a guy like Tristan Thompson that has a career night against you, then yeah, okay, there's some worry, there's some concern there. But I haven't seen that to necessarily hit the panic button yet.
It's just a concern when it's a consistent theme. But we'll move on to one of the more interesting topics right now in the NBA. The most marketable team, the LA Lakers, they're struggling without Anthony Davis. Dennis Schroeder's missed the last few games for, safety protocol. What do you think? Is this a big concern right now for LeBron and the Lakers?
I'm gonna go ahead and say yeah, it is, because they're 5-5 in the last 10 games, something like that, and they're in the middle of a 4-game losing streak. And it's not even. I don't know if you guys watched the game with the Wizards two nights ago, something like that. But that was embarrassing. And people have been bringing up LeBron's stats. Oh, he played so well. Look, he had 31, 9, 13. But it's that's just how you know the difference between somebody who watches basketball and somebody who doesn't. Because if you watch that game, he was completely useless in the fourth quarter and overtime. And he missed, I think, 2 clutch free throws. And he fouled Russell Westbrook on the and 1 to seal the game. And then he went down on the other side of the court, down 3, and pulled up a 3 from mid-court and bricked and lost the game. So, yeah, it's a concern because out of nowhere you take AD out, who wasn't even playing that great to begin with, and now and then obviously you lost Schroeder too, and then all of a sudden the Lakers are playing like trash. I don't get it. LeBron is much better than this. I do think it is a little cause of concern because how is it that you have who some people will call the GOAT, not me, couldn't be me, but somebody's GOAT.
Not mine.
That player on your team, and you're losing. So I think it's a cause of concern.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I expected them to struggle, right? Anytime you lose your second best player, and then whether it's your third or your fourth, wherever you consider shooter, you don't expect the team to play as well. But for them to lose to the Wizards in the fashion they did, up 17 at one point in the game, that's just a bad look. They have some talent still, enough talent that they should be beating the Wizards, that they should be still winning some of these games. I mean, you still do have KCP, Caruso, Taylor Horton-Tucker, you have Marc Gasol, you have Montrezl Harrell. So whatever, I'm not saying this team is stacked, but this team still does have LeBron James and he has supporting cast. My cause of concern would be 2 things. I don't think, well, I'll tell you this, they never saw the Clippers in the playoffs last year, and they never saw a team like the Nets in the playoffs last year. If they have to go through both of those teams, even with AD, it's going to be a tougher path. And B, LeBron is logging a lot of minutes, 3rd in the league thus far in minutes per game. At this point in his career, I'm not going to say it's Tom Brady falling off a cliff, but playing this many minutes this late in your career might have some effect later on in the year. I know he said he hasn't gotten tired and stuff like that, but it's something that I'm going to be monitoring as we move forward.
Facts.
A little shot at Max Kellerman there. I see what you did.
The Max Kellerman Tom Brady cliff.
Well, what I will say is, of course, Anthony Davis, arguably a top 5 player in the league. Dennis Schroeder, arguably was snubbed of 6th Man of the Year last season. But guess what? He was snubbed for Montrezl Harrell, who also is on the Lakers now. What I don't understand, personally, is the fact that everyone was saying the Lakers are the favorites going into the season. They said that they had the best offseason, arguably ever. They added 2 Six-Man of the Year candidates, Marc Gasol, Wesley Matthews, and so on. But the point of the matter is, even without AD, even without Schroeder, they should still be able to compete with some of these games, especially that Wizards one. And I saw someone bring up a good point the other day with the Nets when they played the Suns. No Kyrie, no Kevin Durant, and they're supposed to be the least deep team in the league after they traded LeVert and Jared Allen. And James Harden by himself led a 24-point comeback to beat the Suns. So I don't understand how the Lakers can't even compete. At some points, it looks like 2019 Lakers in a sense where nobody's trying defensively. And that's one of the things that kept them one of the top teams throughout. I mean, they didn't lose. I'm pretty sure they lost their 11th game last year after winning like 38 or 39 games. This year is at 22 wins, which is like 16, 17 wins less. That's huge, if you ask me. The way the Clippers are playing this year, a lot better. The Jazz look like the best team in basketball. And, of course, the Nets, we just talked about them. So I would be concerned if I were the Lakers.
Yeah. Cause for concern, but not panic button. If they're playing,
definitely not panic.
Yeah.
But
if they're playing this bad with AD, then yeah, there's reason to panic. But you're missing your second best player. I expect you to struggle. They lost to the Wizards, but they did also lose to some teams that are better than them. They lost to the Jazz, they lost to the Nets, and albeit the Nets didn't have Kevin Durant, they still had Kyrie and James Harden. So a couple of those losses were expected, and if you lose to them, so be it. But that Wizards one is the killer, up 17. I know the Wizards have been playing well lately, but up 17, that's a game you have to win.
It's the way that they lost that game, though, for me. It's because it was a very winnable game for like a while, especially in the fourth and overtime. And just the mistakes are starting to add up. The missed assignments on defense, LeBron's missing free throws. Like, it's the way that they lost the game that causes concern. But like you said, though, it's not time to hit the panic button. I'm not saying you got to sit LeBron for the rest of the year and just throw the season out. That's not what we're saying. But it's definitely something that needs to be looked at, and we'll see how they get it together.
Yeah,
agreed.
Like 2-3 months till playoff time, and they did have that game against the Wizards, so that's kind of like the major one, I think, over the past few days. But we're gonna move on to talk about some of the crazy games this week. 3-game winners. Of course, the Luka Doncic one against the Boston Celtics. Really, he hit back-to-back dagger threes. Of course, we had Lou Dort, who was in the right corner, hit that splash bomb against the San Antonio Spurs. And then I think the one that had the craziest ending was the Terry Rozier one. I don't know if you guys saw that game happen live, but, Draymond picks up 2 key technicals, multiple jump balls, and then ultimately Terry Rozier falling backwards out of bounds drills the game winner. So I don't know if you guys had a favorite out of any of those, or what did you guys think of those games in particular?
I'm gonna go ahead and go first real quick. I'm gonna automatically say that the Luka Doncic one was the best one by default because I was at work during the other two, so I actually didn't even see the other two.
I think storyline wise, the Rozier one was best, but I think actual shot wise, it was Luka. Storyline, the Rozier just based on the jump ball, the Draymond, the Hornets being down 2 at the jump ball, then the technical foul, the ejection, the game winner in front of the Warriors bench. Yeah, but the shot that Luka hit, the move going left with Patton step back, the same one that beat the Clippers in the playoffs last year, like that shot is just so nice to watch, and I think that was the best one.
Yeah, it's like you said, just like the one that he hit against the Clippers. It makes it seem like it's a good sign for the Mavericks, who started the year off pretty bad as well. They've won like 7 of their last 10. So there's that. In terms of what's the most painful one to watch as on the opposing team, is probably the Rozier one, just because of everything that transpired before that was crazy. And then I'm gonna gotta give a shout out to Lou Dort as well. Yeah, they left him wide open. I don't know if you guys saw that, but he was wide open because he's only shooting 32% from 3 this year. But the thing is, he's also shooting 6 a game, so he's trying to develop that jump shot. So you can't be leaving him wide open for a game winner like that, especially since we know how Lou Dort plays in the big moments. We saw him last year against the Houston Rockets.
I mean, we saw what he was able to do defensively against James Harden. I mean, that's pretty much where we started learning about Lou Dort. Like, nobody was really talking about him prior to that series, but it's like he's legitimately a good defender. Like, I know all the advanced stats don't really say it, stuff like that. And like you said, he's trying to on his 3-point shooting. Obviously, 32% isn't great, but on 6 attempts, that means he's not scared to shoot it. That means it's actually something he's trying to improve on. But I just wanted to bring that up.
and he has big shots. You don't want to throw percentages out the door because obviously that's important, and I'd rather have him be a 40% 3-point shooter than a low 30s, as you said. But knowing that he's not scared to take the shot and then make the shot, that helps as well, especially in big games like that one.
Yeah, it's a lot. I think it's a lot like Luka as well this year in the sense where, his 3-point shot, his percentage-wise, has not really been there. But I think a lot of people still credit him as being a pretty solid shooter because it's high volume. Lou Dort this year, he's still shooting at a decent clip. Could be better, but he's taking a lot more. So you got to give him credit for that, trying to develop that jump shot.
Word.
Yeah, but we're going to move on to one of the craziest moments of the week. There were a lot, as we have a lot of topics, but my guy, Danilo Gallinari, dropped 38 points off the bench, 10 3-pointers, which was the most in Hawks franchise history, and also he's the third person to ever drop 10 threes or more in a game with, I believe, Daniel Marshall and J.R. Smith. We could talk about Gallo's big night. We could talk about how great the Hawks have been too, but I also want to hear what you guys think about the Celtics running their end of that. They've been struggling.
I think this says more about the Celtics than it does about the Hawks and Gallinari. I'm guilty of this myself. I thought the Celtics were going to be like amazing this season. Like I was expecting Jason Tatum to take that next step, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, he and Jaylen Brown are sensational, but the Celtics is like trash. I mean, Kemba Walker came back; he's not playing great at all. A few nights ago, before the Hawks game, what team were they playing? I don't remember what team they were playing, but it was like the game before the Hawks. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. They blew that lead, and Kemba took a really stupid contested pull-up 3 to like tie the game, and it was like the stupidest shot I've ever seen, and it missed. And it's like the Celtics are just down bad right now, as like the young kids would say. So I don't know how you guys feel about the Celtics. I mean, Jaylen Brown's taking a big leap forward as a basketball player this season, but I don't know. I think the Celtics are really, really not living up to standards.
Listen, you build around Tatum and Brown. It's just what you do. I think the shows right now, and you guys can laugh at me if you think I'm nuts. Marcus Smart is more important to this team than Kemba Walker is. You have playmakers. Marcus Smart's a playmaker. Brown and Tatum are playmakers. If Kemba's not scoring the ball, the Celtics are just struggling, and you've seen that already up until this point. So I'm under. I think they'll still make the playoffs, but I don't think they're gonna make any noise. I don't think they're gonna make much noise in the playoffs as they did last year.
Yeah,
they might get out the first round, if anything.
I saw on Twitter someone said it's almost like the Sixers and the Celtics switched roles this year as opposed to like last season. Which I can kind of get behind that. But what I will say is, I really haven't bought into the Celtics since the beginning of the year. I know they had the best record in the league, I believe, after like 9 or 10 games or something like that. But I really haven't bought in. A lot of their games, we're very skeptical. They haven't really played well against bad teams all year long. And if you can't even beat the bad teams, like, you're under 500 as is too. So you're probably not going to be doing too well against the good teams. I know you said Marcus Smart has a bigger impact on this team than Kemba Walker, Johnny. But what I will say is Gordon Hayward has a bigger impact than be given credit for last year's and Celtics team. He was the answer that could have maybe put them in the NBA Finals, and now they literally don't have anything, if you ask me. They have Jaylen Brown, they have Jason Tatum, we're both all-stars. Kemba Walker, he's dealing with the injury. Outside of that, their depth, it's bad. It's really bad, if you ask me. Like Jeff Teague, Peyton Pritchard, he's been a good sign for his standards this season. But if you ask me, the Celtics bench is not that great. And I know, like, this is why I've said multiple times on here, I think a team like the Pacers, who don't get, like, any credit, are at least on their level because they actually have, like, a full team top to bottom. And they're not even, like, fully healthy right now with LeVert and TJ Warren. So, I don't know. The Celtics, with how their expectations are, which is, I believe, going to the finals, maybe winning a title at the beginning of this season, they need to be playing better. They can't be the 9th seed right now.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have any wing depth right now, which hurts. But they're just not playing well at all, like, as a whole. It's not like, oh, go out and sign a decent wing and now all of a sudden you're back in the swing of things. Like, everything is out of sorts right now, and it's hard to pinpoint the exact issue.
Well,
I mean, outside of Tatum and Brown, it's like, where are they getting their production from? Like, every other night is somebody else, or like they don't have any consistent scoring outside of Brown and Tatum, and it's like you can't win that way.
Yeah, the thing that I will say is, I mean, we've been talking a lot about how the team just isn't really built that way, but like in a way to win. But who does that fall on? In my opinion, that falls on Danny Ainge a lot. Remember a few years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, when the Celtics, they had all these picks, they were gonna have the best future ever. Like they basically fleeced the Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett trade with the Brooklyn Nets, and now we're looking at them, and it's almost like teams are surpassing them. And they have a lot of dead weight on their team. And also like Brad Stevens, this is his 8th season there, and he's had a lot of underwhelming seasons as well. So those two guys are someone that need to, take a lot of this blame as well.
No, I agree. I feel like
absolutely
he's been overrated.
Yeah.
Blame has to be distributed across the board. Danny Ainge has already come out and said that he takes most of it. I still believe in Brad Stevens as a coach, but you can build around young guys, but you also do have to make a splash move at some point, and we've been waiting on that for years now.
Yeah, and I will, I guess, close this segment out with giving credit to Gallinari himself, because I know this is like what it was all about originally. Then we got so sidetracked with the Celtics. Gallinari, if the Hawks do get in the playoffs, I think he could be one of the best bench players, in a playoff series. And I think the Hawks, they're not out of it yet. Of course, there's John Collins trade rumors because he wants out. But I don't know. I think that they still have a pretty decent team, and they can make a serious push at the playoffs. It's not like they're having a terrible season because they're very close to the 4 seed, like we said earlier.
Yeah, and props to Gallo. Big night, outlier night, but one of those nights that you celebrate when it happens.
But hopefully that's not an outlier night. If you guys have seen my very first YouTube video, it's a Gallinari mix, or it's one of the first videos. So I'm a big Gallo fan. Hopefully he keeps it up. I like to see him play well. But we're going to get into the daily picks to close out the show. Starting with the 26th, we don't really have too many great games this week, but the Kings and Pelicans, who are you guys taking here?
I'm going to go with Pelicans on that one.
It's Kings Pistons, I think.
Kings Pistons. Yeah, you're right. I'm looking at the next one. Kings Pistons. Who you got here?
Well, then in that case, I got the Kings then.
Yeah, I'm rolling with Sacramento as well.
I got the Kings too on this one. Now the 27th, we have the Pelicans and the San Antonio Spurs. Who you got here?
Probably the Spurs.
I like the Spurs as well.
I got the Spurs too. They've been playing well. On the 28th, we got the Warriors, Lakers, Steph Curry, LeBron James. Who takes this?
I'm going to go Warriors again. They won last time.
I like the Lakers here. Kind of get right spot. Not necessarily an easy game, but a game where I think LeBron's going to come out.
I got the Lakers as well. I think this is a good game that they could turn things around on. On the first, we have the Hornets and Trailblazers. Who's winning this?
I'm going to go Hornets on that one.
I'm going to go Dame Dalla.
I got Portland taking this. On March 2nd, we have the Grizzlies and the Wizards. Who wins this one? This is a tough one, I feel like.
I'm gonna maybe the Wizards.
Yeah, I like the way that Russ and Beal are playing lately. I'm gonna go with the Wizards.
I'm going to go with Memphis, I believe, for this game. On the third, we have the Hawks and Magic. Battle for the 11 seed, maybe. Who you got here?
Hawks.
I like Atlanta as well.
Yep, I got Atlanta too. And to close things out, we got on the fourth, the Warriors once again against the Phoenix Suns. Who you guys got here?
I'm gonna go Warriors.
Warriors as well.
I'm going to go with the Suns. I mean, they've been playing pretty well. They did lose the other day, so that's tough. And hopefully they lose on the day this is posted, which is going to be against our Bulls. But yeah, I think that's pretty much going to do it for us. Hope you guys enjoyed. Any final thoughts from you guys?
Thanks for hopping on, Edwin. Appreciate it as always. Great talking ball with you.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'll link his stuff in the description below, so you guys can go check him out. You can go subscribe, follow, whatever you want to do, because he's our guy. Yeah.
Well, appreciate that.
Yeah. But thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we're out. Peace.
All right, man. Have a good one.